On the scene, Chriselda Lewis, who is at the FNB Stadium covering this story for us. Chriselda, a very good morning to you. All eyes are on the ANC's provincial manifesto launch at the FNB Stadium today. Do paint us a clear picture of what is happening on the ground.
Well, a very good morning to you, Alicia, and welcome back to the FNB Stadium, where the ANC in Gauteng will launch its local government election manifesto. Yes, a 95,000 strong stadium, which the ANC in Gauteng is really hoping to fill here this morning. This is where the province will try to woo about 6.2 million registered voters in the province to convince them to vote for the ANC come the 3rd of August municipal polls. Now, Gauteng's 3 metros have a combined registration voting population of 5.2 million. Now, all 3 of those metros, Johannesburg, Ekurhuleni and Tshwane, are among the hotly contested in the country, you would know. In Johannesburg, a registration population standing at 2,184,861, quite a sizable amount. In Ekurhuleni as well, 1,546,094, and as well as Tshwane with over 1 million as well. So the largest region where we will see people go out and vote in this hotly contested, much anticipated election on the 3rd of August. Now, the focus certainly today will be on service delivery. We expect President Jacob Zuma, as well as the ANC chair in the province, Paul Mashatile, to focus on the successes of the African National Congress, what it has managed to do in terms of service delivery for the people of this region, and certainly in areas where there might be concerns, how it plans to bolster service delivery in this area. But, you know, service delivery has been pronounced, the protests in Gauteng. We know that we've witnessed about 385 of these service delivery protests between 2004 and 2016. Thus far in Gauteng, what we've seen at this point is about 30 service delivery protests since the start of 2016. We expect the African National Congress to address some of those issues, some of the concerns that communities may have. You'd know that, of course, in the run-up to the event here today, the provincial leadership had been crisscrossing the province, hearing from the communities about what their concerns are and garnering support for them to attend this event here this morning. But before we speak to the provincial chair of the African National Congress, let's take a look at this clip. We spoke a bit earlier on this week to the deputy chair of the ANC in the province, and we asked him about this contentious issue of service delivery protests, where certainly he also did concede that we've seen an escalation of those in Gauteng. But, it's not unusual during this time in the run-up to the municipal election that we see these kinds of protests. Let's take a listen to this clip before we speak to the ANC chair.
We have noted, correctly, that in the last few months the number of service delivery protests has increased. But it is something, as far as I know, is not unusual. There are many drivers of service delivery protests towards the local government elections. And we will continue to do that at the level of government. You'll see the MECs are very visible in this province, from an issue of health or of education or housing or issues of crime. These MECs will continue to be engaging on the issues. Where there's an issue in the community, we will be able to do that.
Well, there's certainly quite a hive of activity here at the FNB Stadium. I'm sure you'll see on your screen at the moment, people starting to trickle in to hear President Jacob Zuma speak, as well as the chair of the ANC in Gauteng. Let's speak to the man of the moment, the man of the day here this morning, and find out what we can expect as both those in attendance here as well as those who may be sitting in front of their television screens and watching the launch of this manifesto. And Tate Mashatile, thank you very much for your time this morning. It certainly seems to be all systems go. The excitement is quite palpable. We see many people coming in here this morning. Is it all systems go? We're expecting still many of the buses, over 2,000, to still make their way to the FNB Stadium.
Most definitely. We have hired 1,800 buses Most of them have now left, they are on the way. What we need to do is that once they get to the stadium, to facilitate that they are able to come in quickly. But we are happy with the logistics so far. There aren't many glitches except in the south of Joburg around Orange Farm where people were blockading the Golden Highway. It has been cleared now. Other than that, all the buses are on the way.
Blockading the highway, I want to speak to some of those issues as well. During the course of the week, you'd been crisscrossing, the province, garnering support for this event, and of course, encouraging those who may be undecided still at this point, to vote for the African National Congress. Without letting the cat out the bag, what are we expecting today for you to focus on when you take to the podium?
I think most importantly is to give our people hope that tomorrow will be better. We know that the ANC has done a lot since 1994. We have built many houses, we have tarred the roads, we've given people title deeds, we've come up with major infrastructure projects, but it's not enough. There are people who are still in informal settlements. There are people who are still looking for jobs. So we need to give them hope that we will attend to these things. So that's what I will be saying today, to say all our municipalities have plans and we are going to make sure that everybody gets a better life.
Chair, I think the service delivery protest issue has been one of the contentious issues in Gauteng. I mean, since the beginning of 2016, we've seen about 30 of those in Gauteng. What are some of the issues that many of these communities have raised? We'd been out on the trail with you on several of these occasions, issues of housing, issues of title deeds that were brought up as well. But how does Gauteng plan to deal with those issues? There still seems to be quite a lot of dissent regarding some of the delays in some areas where services aren't really penetrating to the people.
Well, in fact, my view is that it could have been worse. But the ANC in Gauteng introduced a program called Nteresan, where we go out to communities all the time, talking to them. Always in the year of election, we'll always have an increase in protests. There are issues of electricity, housing, etc. But we are attending to them, and I can assure you that we will continue to go out there into communities, even beyond the elections.
The protest in Orange Farm, it's not the first time that we're seeing it. They are among the group of people who are complaining that, the councillor candidate lists that were put forward, were not transparent. Those were their claims. Some saying that some of the councillors' names that were put forward are people who are not in good standing with the party. Allegations as far as saying that some might even have criminal records. How do you plan to deal with that as one of the main bones of contention? We saw the protests during the course of the week where people are saying they're not happy about the candidates put forward.
Well, we will go out to those areas that are affected. We have more than 529 wards. The problems are not in more than 7 wards. So we've appointed or nominated more than 500 councillors. So where you have problems, you'd find that it's not really more than 7 wards, as I said. But we'll go back to them because in these situations, many people feel I should be the councillor and not so and so. So you always have to balance that. In some instances, the ANC said, let's have women as well. So when you do that, you shift men out. So you'll always have somebody not satisfied, but it's not widespread. It's particular areas, and our provincial list committee will now, from next week, be going to those areas, assuring those comrades that even if you are not the councillor, we have put another comrade of the ANC who will be able to represent the community.
I'm glad you touched on the issue of gender parity as well. The African National Congress, previously, in its conference, has always said that it wants to prioritize and make sure that women also do take, prominent positions within the different spheres of government. We're not seeing many women as mayors, for example. How does the African National Congress plan to change that? Is that one of the major issues that you're looking at this time in considering those who would take these front positions within these various communities?
In our list now, we have more than 50% of women. And even when we appoint mayors, we will definitely consider women. So the issue of women is being attended. In the mayoral committees, there are a lot of women. So yes, we're getting there. We're getting there.
Just finally, is there any discussion at this point within the ANC? Yes, I know that you've continuously said in the run-up to this manifesto launch that the ANC is going for a decisive victory, not just in Gauteng, but around the country. But is there any discussion at this point about coalitions in the event that the ANC perhaps does not get the percentage that it wants? We saw in the last national election that the ANC in Gauteng had lost about 10% support. So on the issue of coalitions, is that on the table at this point?
From our side, definitely not. We want to go for a decisive victory, as you said. So we don't want to be concerned with the fact that we might lose. We're going out for victory. We want to win this election.
Right, thank you very much there for your time. That is the chairperson of the ANC in Gauteng, quite optimistic about today's events. Proceedings are starting to get underway here. Quite a number of performances here at the FNB Stadium. Many others are still scheduled to come in. We do understand that the more than 2,000 buses that have been allocated to ferry many of the supporters, the members, as well as the volunteers of the ANC are still to get here to the stadium. But the ANC in the province is saying it's expecting an overwhelming support here this morning. We'll certainly watch that very closely as well. Also, you're hearing there from the chairperson that there were disruptions this morning in the Orange Farm area. He says that that situation has now been sorted out. Some of those protests, of course, we saw during the course of the week were really highlighting the concerns by some of the party members relating to the councillor candidate list. We understand this morning's protest in Orange Farm was also relating to the same instance. But certainly we're also expecting that main address as well from President Jacob Zuma. Without a doubt, the president will highlight some of the successes that the ANC has had since it came into power and how it plans to bolster on the service delivery, not just in Gauteng, but throughout the country. Of course, President Jacob Zuma expected also perhaps to call for tolerance. We've seen quite a lot of what others would term intolerable behavior towards some of these councillor lists that I've just mentioned. So a lot of that expected here, and a lot of other issues relating to service delivery, infrastructure development as well. We're expecting in that speech by the chairperson of the ANC in Gauteng. But just taking a look here behind me as well, you can see that many people are quite jovial about, in terms of the mood here at the FNB Stadium. So we'll cross to you a little bit later on, and certainly we'll speak to some of those members and supporters as well, and hear what some of their concerns are, what they would really like the president as well as the chair of the ANC in Gauteng to address in their speeches here this morning. We'll certainly cross back to you in studio. Alicia will bring you more from the FNB Stadium here in Johannesburg.
Look, Chriselda, I know you've touched on this and you did also raise it up with Paul Mashatile there. We did see some protests over the candidate list earlier in the week, but do you get a sense on the ground of a united front of people that are coming out in full support of their party?
Oh, 100%, Alicia. The numbers that we're seeing outside the stadium already are extremely overwhelming. We're still waiting for them to come inside the stadium. The number of buses, what you will know is that many of the buses are not being allowed within the FNB precinct. They're parking several kilometers away at the Nasrec parking area. So they would need to make their way from there in order to gain access into the stadium. But from some that we spoke to this morning, they're very optimistic about about what's to be launched here today, the manifesto. They want to hear what the ANC and Gauteng's plans are for the next 5 years, should they go to the polls on the 3rd of August and again endorse the African National Congress to run the various municipalities or the metros in the Gauteng area. So the optimism certainly is there. You also heard the Gauteng chair of the ANC, Mashatile, say the numbers of those who are showing discontent when it comes to the issue relating to the councillor candidate list are very few. But they're not downplaying that. They're saying they will then send members of the party to go and speak to those communities that may be concerned about some of the candidates that have been put forward, who some claim they don't even know. Some claim that there are candidates from different areas, not from the communities where they reside, but absolute optimism, I certainly must say. But whether these numbers will actually have a damper on the attendance figures here at the FNB Stadium, that certainly remains to be seen just a little bit later on. But the ANC in Gauteng is quite adamant that the numbers are extremely low of those who have shown dissent towards some of the challenges that are being experienced. But quite a jovial atmosphere here. You see a lot of ANC flags, as expected, in the air, they're draped in ANC colors, with the dukes as well. You've got members of the ANC Women's League as well that are here, who've really said they want to see issues of women being championed. Exactly one of the questions that I posed to Paul Mashatile with regard to women and the African National Congress wanting to prioritize women in front in prominent leadership positions within the various communities. So certainly we'll hear a lot of that from the ANC Women's League, and them wanting to champion women in the forefront of the various communities and leading essentially from the front. But we'll certainly bring you a lot more here from the FNB Stadium as many of the members, supporters and volunteers trickle in.
Thank you so much for that update. That's Chriselda Lewis live to us from the FNB Stadium at the NC's Gauteng Provincial Manifesto launch.